Well, hello everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Major Idiots podcast. I am Sean McConnell, and with me is Brian Lahosky.
Oh,
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing very well. The Alexes are dead, and they're no longer among us. They've been brutally murdered. Their corpses have been decomposing, and
Okay.
they can no longer be recognized. Speaking
Wow.
of things that have been brutally murdered and beyond recognition, today we're going to be talking about the Terminator franchise. But I should preface that this is the first episode in a sub-series that we're doing.
Yes, it is a new subseries that we are titled "A Couple of Idiots," where we kind of go about talking about different movie franchises, maybe game franchises, and like do a little retrospective on them from A to B. You know, all the way through their whole franchise from the start to the end, or like from the oldest to the newest, whatever we do. And if this does well, we'll continue to do this, and it'll be probably a once a month special episode where we, because it takes a little bit of time for us to kind of go through and watch all these movies and research everything. But, we're just going to talk about them today and see what you guys think. Yeah.
Let us know if you like it, and if you don't like it, keep it to yourself, because I have very low self-esteem. So
Terminator. It all started in 1984 with James Cameron's first Terminator 1.
Yeah.
Want to talk about that one?
I would like to talk about that one. This is probably going to be my first hot take of the video. Actually, well, I don't know how many hot takes I have for the Terminator franchise in general. But this is my favorite Terminator film in the whole series. I know everyone's like, oh, T2 is the best one because
it is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Because it has pew pew action. Well, no, that's not the reason why.
They both have action. It's just
No,
I think it's a stronger story.
I think the Terminator, I mean, it's not so much an action film as it's more of like a sci-fi like slasher kind of.
It is. That's exactly what
Yeah.
was inspired James Cameron. Was that kind of stuff was like Michael Myers and things like that at the time inspired him to make something like that. And he was having he was definitely sick and
Yeah.
had a hallucination of a robot coming out of fire to kill him. It's like, what the were you on?
You know, I always keep a list of like things that I dream about. I don't think any of it would be like a good like thing to make a franchise out of. Actually, wait, let me check my list of dreams and see if there's something that's franchise related.
You could do the nursing home, young folks home.
Oh God.
Check it out on YouTube.
Oh God, that's true.
You could do it as a series.
So October 9th, 23, one of my teeth fell out. Also, I was in the finale of Alf, and I was fighting a tiger who I managed to get to attack the task force and save Alf. I don't think that would make for a good movie.
I don't know what that string of words even meant.
I don't know what that says about me, that my dreams involve Alf.
So, no, I agree. I like Terminator 1 for what it is. I think it's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
I like the story. I think it's really well done. I also really enjoy the music. The synthwave of it is fantastic.
That's probably like one of the reasons why I prefer this over the second one is because of the style and the music.
Yeah.
I missed that for Terminator 2. And obviously, like, the music to Terminator 2 is trying something completely different.
Yeah.
But I liked that aesthetic for the first Terminator film.
Dun, 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 dun,
I realize that, I mean, we'll talk about it, but Terminator 2 is a better movie, but I prefer the Terminator because it's such a simple story.
Look, you can say that. You can acknowledge that another film is better, but still have your favorite be a different film. That's perfectly fine. But I with that, oh God, I had something I was going to say. With the Terminator, there's different versions now. I grew up with one that was on VHS. Like, 'cause I'm older than you. And it had different sound effects.
Oh, was James Cameron doing George Lucas shit before George Lucas did?
We watched it not too long ago, and I told you got to change the sound effects on, and it had better sound effects in the original theatrical release than it did when they changed it.
I'm not used to the original sound effects.
The guns sound more powerful and scary to me, and I don't like the little, they changed his, the crazy ass handgun he has. They changed it to sound really it's like a silenced gun when it's not, and it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But I just prefer the older sound effects because they changed a lot of stuff. So I have a question. Well, actually, no, not a question. But did you know that Lance Henriksen was originally cast or thought of to be the T-800, the Terminator?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence about it because I like the idea. I mean, obviously, the original idea was, oh, the Terminator could be like anybody. He could like kind of like go into the crowd and you'd be like, oh, it could be, where could the Terminator be?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then they decided, oh, hey, the Terminator is actually going to be this very tall Austrian man, Austrian bodybuilder.
Mr. Universe.
Someone who is obviously supposed to be intimidating. But it kind of works at the same time. Because obviously, like, Arnold is very terrifying as the Terminator. Because it's just like, oh, yeah, there is something very off about this guy.
Yep.
But it kind of, even in the film, it's like, oh, he still blends in because
He does.
it was the 80s and everybody was already looking kind of crazy and nuts.
Yeah,
and
he was a
stuff
couple
like that.
packs short of or a couple cans short of a 6-pack.
Yeah.
But do you know he auditioned for Reese?
Oh, Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
Oh,
Arnold
can you
Schwarzenegger
imagine if he
auditioned
was
for
Kyle Reese? It'd
But
be
then-
like, I'm so soft and sensitive. I'm trying to say. He's like, yeah, you're not fooling anybody.
You're a huge man. Like,
Mike-
you're gonna have no problem fighting
I-
a Terminator.
Same with Arnold as the Terminator. I can't picture anybody but Michael Biehn being Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
Because he has this sense of like being a badass and being like, oh, this guy who's like a fish out of water, but
He's like an
still,
everyman.
in a way, yeah. But he also has like he it's so weird because I've never seen someone who looks like muscular and hardcore, but they also look like a toothpick at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like he has that level of humanity to him, which is great. You obviously want to contrast that with like Arnold, which is like this threat of like this unstoppable like killing machine.
They're when I was doing some research for this, I looked up the deleted scenes for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's one where like he's chasing after Sarah because she like runs away from him for some reason. They get into a fight.
Yeah.
And they end up in the woods, and he's like crying and breaking down about how beautiful the world is because he's never seen it and it's all gone. That is something that, I mean, like, I understand why they didn't keep it in the film because it does kind of change the pacing a bit.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen more of that of him because his character is only used to the world being completely destroyed, and he's like you said, fish out of water, thrown into this completely different world where there's things he's never seen, like, the sky not being pitch black because of smoke and buildings that are intact, kids having fun, food. You know.
That is I wish they kept that scene in some regard, but I think they deleted it because that kind of introduced like a plot line of, oh, we have to stop Skynet before it is created.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't want it. They just removed it because they were like, okay, nothing really comes of that in this movie.
They end the movie, like, and there's a deleted part where she's being loaded into the ambulance, Sarah, and they pan up and it says like Cyberdyne or something.
They're introducing that idea that it is like a fixed like time loop kind of thing.
Yeah, which I want to get into that with you a little bit later when we start talking about more of the stuff.
Disclaimer about the time travel in the Terminator series. None of it makes any sense.
It makes sense up until a point.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we kind of f***ed up.
And that's why I kind of like the closed like loop kind of thing with the original Terminator. Obviously, there are themes of like there's no fate, what we make for ourselves, blah 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 blah. But I kind of like that. It's a very simple story by itself. You obviously don't have to watch Terminator 2, but obviously I think you should because that's a good movie too. But this movie by itself like works by itself, and I kind of going back to that style. I really love the contrast between like normal everyday world where, I mean, there's that club that they go into called Tech Noir, which I think is like kind of a perfect name for like the kind of genre that this film is. And I love that in the contrast with like the future world, and it's all dark and mysterious. And they managed to do that on a budget too, which is kind of a miracle that this
was like $6 million.
Yeah, this film is very like low budget, and it doesn't seem like that in a lot of areas because I love the makeup effects with the Terminator. Well, obviously there's that one shot where he's like putting on the glasses.
What, we mean it takes his eye out?
Yeah, well that's a great scene, but
that's one of those shots that would definitely traumatize children.
Yeah,
because it's a man taking an X-Acto knife and cutting his eyeball out of his head.
Yeah, but it's funny because it's so obviously a model of him doing that. He puts the sunglasses on, and it cuts to another shot of him with the sunglasses on.
But I still think that looks better than CGI.
It definitely looks better than the shot. It definitely looks better than the shot in Alien where Kane is just a head.
Oh yeah, movie that does that really bad cut.
Yeah.
That
Alien is another movie. I'm like, that movie is perfect, but this one scene.
And if this does well, we'll talk about the Alien franchise at some point.
Yes. But then that means I have to watch Romulus. I don't really want to do that.
Romulus was not bad. It's better than 3.
It's kind of funny
which I know
that
is not saying much.
Terminator and Alien are very similar franchises where it's like the first 2 were pretty good.
So you're saying it's like
the rest of it though?
The rule of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But I will say Alien is better than Terminator in that regard.
Yeah, I would say so.
Except for Prometheus and Covenant.
We'll talk about that later.
But
Time
anyway.
out. This is about Terminator, guys.
I'm sorry.
We know. It's our.
I thought
that's
you
our
were
producer.
dead.
That's
Didn't
our
you listen to
producer,
my
Alex
intro?
Town and Alex DeGeneiro talking right now.
Get back on task.
We're getting back on task.
They've
So-
been turned into Terminators.
In my notes here, did you know? You know about the whole O.J. Simpson auditioning?
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, the reason it didn't happen is because James Cameron said he doesn't look like a killer.
Oops.
It's like that didn't age well at all. Terminator 1 is also one of the few movies that is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it actually?
Yes.
Oh, Paddington 2 as well.
Paddington 2. That movie's great.
Yeah.
But we're talking Terminator Paddington mashup.
I can't wait for the ultimate crossover.
Paddington has to stop the T-800.
Is there anything in this movie that you don't like?
Anything that I don't like?
Because I think it's great. I mean, I love the practical effects, as I've said. The late, great Stan Winston, who did a lot of this, and
Yeah.
some of the stuff for Aliens.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I don't care for in this movie. I don't really think that there is.
Besides some dodgy effects at the end, I think this film holds up pretty well. Again, the style.
You talking about like the stop motion of the Terminator?
Yeah,
movie?
that's I think stop motion in any movie, unless it's like super artistic, finds
that's a
a way
product
to
of
be
its
dated.
time, though.
Yeah, but I think this is great, and I think the thing that definitely makes these first two movies pop out more than latter entries in the series is that it focuses. I mean, obviously, like time travel and like the sci-fi are important aspects to it, but I very much appreciate that this is a very human story between Kyle and Sarah, and about Sarah discovering this destiny about herself, because beforehand she was just like an innocent kind of like party kind of girl.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then
well, you see that kind of in the part where she tries to get Kyle up, and she says,
Yeah.
"Come on, get on your feet, soldier." You
Yeah.
know that that whole thing. You kind of
which
see,
is a
like,
bit
it's-
cheesy, but I think it's warranted at that point
I
in the movie.
I agree that's the only thing I think that it kind of takes me out is when she's doing that. It sounds a little like, okay, come on,
It's a little bit endearing though.
you're not Terminator 2 Sarah Connor
Yeah,
yet.
you're not there yet. You're not that guy.
Although
pal.
little Linda Hamilton is a badass, I will say. Like she's one of those 80s and 90s movie like icon female that women that like Sigourney Weaver in Aliens that just kind of kicked ass and were, I think, a very good example for other women that they got the spotlight finally to show like, hey, we can be badass too without it being forced.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, there's like
really
a
well done.
slow evolution of her character. Like by the end of this,
Yeah.
she's not entirely badass. She
No.
eventually just is like, oh, I need to be like prepared for this
No.
thing that's coming. But I think that the character arc is still great in this film, and I like her. She's not like a stereotypical like scream queen, as
No.
it were. She at least has some agency, and I think you talked before. You mentioned a few days ago we should talk about like what if Kyle Reese survived.
Yeah,
this
so it was
film.
actually going to be my next point.
I think if like he survived and delivered like the final blow to the Terminator, I don't think this film would have worked at all.
Well, I wouldn't want him to deliver the final blow.
No.
I just wanted that she turns him over and he's not dead and they both live after that.
Yeah.
Because then they're both in the Jeep at the end.
I think this film, I think it works because Kyle died. I don't think he should have been around. I don't know if the story would have been impacted that much if he did survive.
How do you think it, like, if we're going to, are we ready to move on to 2?
We can, yeah.
Okay, so how do you think if he had lived, that would have affected Terminator 2?
I mean, he probably would have had like a little bit more knowledge of like future events, but like even then, I think the film is presented in such a way where it's like he doesn't have that much knowledge about like everything.
Yeah.
So it's like
Do you think John would be different?
Oh yeah, he wouldn't be like a brat in
Kind of a little
T2.
shit for a
Oh,
little bit?
big shit. He'd be a big no. He's a big shit.
She's not my mother, Todd.
Oh, okay. We can talk about T2 now, but well, there is a deleted scene in T2 where Kyle is in like a flashback.
That is actually also in the extended edition.
Oh yeah.
There's a different version. I once I watched the extended edition, I can't watch anything else. I have to watch it. It's like Aliens, the same thing with that.
Yeah. There is an extended. I don't know where I saw this edition. I think they made another extended edition that includes the one where Sarah is in old like makeup.
The ending,
yeah.
that's the alternate ending. I think they took it out so they could make more installments because that is at 2029.
Yeah. They probably should have kept that ending. All
They
things considered.
yeah, probably because that, especially with them doing like different time loops and everything or like timelines, they could have just did that later. But with that whole law of diminishing returns, I think once you make it more complicated, it's easier to gum up the works with things because then you start to change. That's why the first two movies are fantastic because they're simple.
Mm-hmm.
We stop Skynet, or the first one is just keep Sarah alive, destroy the Terminator. And that's straight and forward to the point. The other ones is all like, we got to do all this and that and go to this point and do this shit. And it's just like, no, don't do this. You don't necessarily need to do that.
Oh, man. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh, I know.
Terminator 2, though, we're kind of jumping the gun. Terminator 2 is
My
also...
favorite Terminator.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Up the ante. This time, Arnold is the good guy.
Yeah.
Was anyone surprised by that? Because I know that they revealed that in the trailer back in the day.
People that I've actually watched a person reviewing the movie, like first time reactions to it, and they were very surprised because they had just watched the first Terminator.
Yeah.
They were like, "Wait, he's the bad guy though. Like, it's obvious that he's not killing people."
Mm-hmm.
First Terminator literally ripped the dude's chest apart, like in the first 2 minutes that he's on screen.
Yeah.
This one, he threw a dude through a plate glass window and burned a guy's hands, but he didn't kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Cameron were actually talking about. Like, James Cameron said to him, like, to Arnold, like, he's not going to kill anyone in this movie. He's like, but I have to kill people. Like, no, you don't. Like, trust me, it'll work out. He's like, all right. But Arnold
Thankfully, it did.
Yeah, and during that whole movie, he doesn't kill a single person.
No.
He injures a lot of people and takes out kneecaps, but he doesn't kill anybody.
Mm-hmm. He's a great protagonist. I mean, I think he's really good in this movie.
Yeah, which is a complete contrast to Robert Patrick's character of the T-1000, who immediately kills a cop, and then takes over his persona or who he was. I love that because the second movie, because the antagonist is vastly different from the T-800. Like the liquid metal, the fact that he can make weapons out of his hands makes him more dangerous, I feel, because he doesn't need to rely on firearms or anything like that. He can literally turn himself into the knife, or he hides in a floor. Like, he turns himself into a floor to infiltrate a building and then kill a guard. And I think that's insane. And then the CGI of it looks good. Because I think he used a lot of techniques that he learned on either The Abyss or
I think The Abyss,
other movies
I think it was
that he had
after
done
The
at the time,
Abyss.
James Cameron.
And the T-1000 doesn't feel like super indestructible, like at the same time. Like, they at least are like, oh yeah, okay, so the T-1000, he can do this, but he can't do this.
Yeah, he can't
It's
form
not to
himself
a
into,
point
like,
yet.
bombs.
Yeah, it's not to a point yet where it's like absurd, like to a degree, like later movies.
We'll get into that one.
You know what's weird though? I thought about this earlier. I'm like, look, if Skynet really wanted, because if they can only send like living tissue back in time,
Yeah.
why doesn't Skynet just get a nuke, cover it in skin, and then put it back in time and let it, let nature take its course?
Because how are you can't control it. You can't, like, unless they put it inside of the Terminator body itself.
Yeah.
Which in later entrances they kind of talk about how they're powered by a nuclear bomb, like nuclear energy, which doesn't make sense, but
No.
we'll get to that because I actually have a note about that. But no, I when he's chasing John Connor through the parking lot on the dirt bike, they had to tell Robert Patrick to actually slow down.
Yeah, because he was running
catching
too
up
fast.
to him every
Yeah.
single time, and that's fucking insane.
Yeah, that's dedication right there.
Yeah, he doesn't blink at all during the movie.
That's also
Even when he's firing
dedication.
guns, like, he had to teach himself how to blink or not blink without firing a weapon. Like the actor of Robert Patrick in that role is absolutely iconic and terrifying. Because you know who Arnold is, you know what his character's about, you know what's underneath him, but Robert Patrick's character is, you don't know, he could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold can only be Arnold, but the T-1000 can literally be anyone. So
Right.
no one is safe at that point in time. Like, he kills the foster parents and pretends to be the foster mother. And, like, when he's on the phone with her, you can tell because something's off. Because you see her earlier, and she's all like, "This is, God damn it, John, blah, blah, blah. You're being an ass," or whatever. And then later she's like, "I'm making stew," or whatever the hell she was doing, being super, like, maternal.
Janet's not this nice.
Yeah. And she then stabs her, the husband, right in the face.
Because he was drinking milk right out of the cart. That fucking asshole.
But yeah, like, and there's an extended edition, which I've talked about before, where there's like the dog barking. They go in depth into that a little bit more. He walks out to the dog and kills it.
Mm-hmm.
he pulls the collar off and it says Max when the Terminator said Wolfie.
Right.
And that's how he knows that they're onto him. That's
Yeah,
not
I mean, there's a
regular.
lot of. I don't think there's too many like deleted scenes that I'm like, they could have done without.
Mhm.
I mean, they're more like supplemental. I think like for the deleted scenes for T1, I'm like, okay, I understand why they were cut.
Yeah.
So I can go either or. I mean, I guess my biggest issue with this film is if you're watching the extended version, it's a bit long, and at the end you're like, all right, I kind of want this to be done. But again, there's that preference of just watching the original, I guess.
No, I understand. You want the feel of the theatrical version.
But at the same time, it's like the thing about this film is that it kind of does its job a little too well, where it's like it's so conclusive that it doesn't really like lend itself to sequels.
That's why the third one feels very forced.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to think of other things to talk about with T2.
to your point with like you were talking about how the Terminator the T-1000 isn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
In the extended edition, after he gets frozen and then shot and melts,
Right,
he's
there's
malfunctioning.
that glitch, yeah.
He's damaged and starts to like he touches a railing and it turns his hand into the railing and he does this thing where he's like phasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a really good touch that kind of lended to seeing like, oh, he isn't invincible.
Yeah.
He's now damaged. He's not working right. All this other stuff. But you know, in my viewing of all of these films, I have to say I think the T-800, which is Arnold's model, is the best Terminator ever made.
I agree with that.
Because
Are you talking about just like ineffectiveness?
Yeah, it's also durable.
I agree.
Like he gets his arm ripped off in this and still manages to kill a more advanced Terminator. And like it's insane the fact that they're like, oh yeah, he's their I don't know, premier like flagship model for Skynet. The other ones are I want to say the other ones are prototypes. They seem more like prototypes. But that's probably not correct, but they feel more like a prototype, like the T-1000, the TX and 3. But just send a bunch of T-800s. Because as we learned from Dark Fate, that works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly the point. Yeah, I think in terms of like a villainous presence, Arnold is a little better. Not to knock Robert Patrick, obviously. They're trying something different.
Well, they're supposed to make it look like he's not intimidating, but he's
right,
actually more powerful.
I kind of like in some regards like a villain who's like calm and like cool and like, oh, I'm a nice guy, and he turns out to be like an emotionless killing machine.
Well, there's actually something I wanted to talk about with that. On the bridge after the helicopter crashes, the dude that gets out of the semi, he goes like, "Oh damn, are you all right?" He just stabs him. It looked like he stabbed him like he was angry.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, okay.
And in the theatrical version, the Terminator talks about like Arnold's character talks about how more time he spends around humans, the more he learns.
Oh, really?
So I'm thinking maybe it's the same thing with the T-1000, and they can mimic anger or emotions.
Yeah.
Because as you see, like later, like earlier in the film, when he's talking to John's step-parents, he sounds like a human being. He doesn't sound robotic. But later, when he's talking to other people like John or Sarah, he sounds very robotic, like call to John now. And you know, it just makes me think like, is he learning or is it just changing?
I like to think that he is like mimicking it as opposed, because I mean it kind of, because he's kind of a perfect foil to Arnold, because obviously there's like a big thing with this movie where it's, I mean, one of my favorite things is like the whole idea of like, oh, like machines like kind of learning humanity as well, like with the T-800 in this learning how to be more like kind of like a father figure to John. And I think that stuff is probably the best part of this movie, with like the kid and his pet Terminator. Like going around and doing stuff.
Well, like
I
when
like
Sarah
that
is talking about like how he's the perfect father figure. You'll never get drunk and hit him or anything like that.
So that's why I like to think that the T-1000 is like trying its best, but the T-800 has like more of
It's
like
a better
heart
infiltration unit.
Yeah, it has like a bigger heart.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's the stuff that works for me. And I love the stuff with Sarah and John where like Sarah's trying to kill Dyson and she realizes, oh, I'm kind of a Terminator. Like
she was turning into things she hated.
Yeah. And then John comes in and she says that thing like, I loved you, John, I always have, like Kyle said to her.
Yeah. And she has that breakdown.
Yeah.
She realizes that she was going too far and becoming the thing, like with the training and everything, and she was becoming the thing that she hates and sort of destroy.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that stuff. It's, you cheeky fuck.
What?
Did you really just Star Wars?
Yeah,
me?
I was literally thinking Anakin.
I'm not.
Became the thing you swore to destroy.
I'm gonna throw a ninja star from across the room. I'm gonna
Thank
hit the
you,
part of your
please.
brain that has all the Star Wars information stored.
You almost got me.
It's my entire brain.
You son of a bitch.
But there's one other thing.
Anything else for Terminator 2? Or
In the extended edition, they take out Arnold's
the chip?
the chip.
Yeah.
And they flip a switch on it so we can learn, because Skynet changed it or made it so that they couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, and I like that there has to be more of a way to explore that, because it makes it seem like Skynet doesn't want their machines to actually actively learn or to change, because then they become free and they have their own free will and decision making abilities, or at least they're a semblance of something that could be considered that.
You know, with that scene, I'm kind of on the fence about it being deleted, because on one hand, I'm like, oh, it's a great moment where Sarah's going to destroy the chip, and John's like, no, we still need him to survive.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm like, I kind of like the idea that the Terminator goes to the Ark on his own, as opposed to there being a moment where he managed to learn and be a good person because someone flipped a switch. Obviously, that's not entirely the case, but I kind of get why they deleted that initially.
Yeah,
but that's also a great scene where they do mirrors and doubles.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
well it's Linda Hamilton's twin sister.
Yeah.
But I just like it because it shows that Skynet isn't necessarily 100% secure in its own creations, which in a way I feel mirrors how we are about our stuff. We're not entirely trusting of the things that we create.
No, yeah.
Because of what if they do, what Skynet did. So Skynet puts fail safes in its own machines because it's worried that, or at least I'm probably interpreting this could be reaching, it's thinking that, are they gonna one day turn on us and become more like people, and realize that, I'm wrong. But I think that is all I had for 2.
It's got a lot of moments for to provide food for thought.
Yeah, and I do love that 2 ties it up in a nice bow. I think it's perfect. The first 2 movies are fantastic.
If you haven't seen them already, please watch them. They're great action films.
Exactly.
You can just watch both of them. And Terminator Zero, but we'll get to that way later.
I think we can stop here.
No.
No, let's go into 3.
Yeah.
One of the 3 threes.
I think this movie is fine.
In retrospective to the other 2 threes.
Yeah. In retrospect to the other sequels.
The other 2 Terminator 3s, Genesis and Dark Fate. I think 3, Rise of the Machines, is fine.
Yeah, okay, so this wasn't made by James Cameron. It was directed by Jonathan Mostow. Has he done anything else besides this?
I do not know.
Okay.
We can have our producers look into that real quick.
Yeah, what else is Jonathan...
just
flipped me off. This is what we have you hired for.
I'm not being paid.
Okay, fine, fair enough, I guess.
Well, you don't have Google on your phone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, I mean, well, okay. Let's talk about the TX.
Yes, let's talk about the TX. I was about to bring that up.
What do you think of the TX?
I
like her performance.
I like the actress.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting concept, but I think it's just, let's take the T-1000 and take it up a notch and just make it more complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Now it's going to have a plasma gun built into its arm.
This is kind of where the Terminators, the evil Terminators, are like, we have to keep one-upping ourselves, and as a result, it's like, well, if they have the power to, hack, machines and make them do things... Oh, God, I forgot about that. This is the stupidest part of the whole movie.
She has the power to take over other machines.
Hack cars.
Yes, she takes over cars. It makes sense, because that's exactly how a car works.
Shit. Well, okay, damn it. Fuck this movie. It sucks, actually. Okay, no, well, okay.
It makes sense later when she does the taking over of Arnold.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Or trying to do that to him.
But my thing is, if the TX is, this powerful, it's why do they even bother with the infiltration shit? You know what I mean? Why do they even bother with stealth shit? Just go in guns blazing at this point.
Well, because they can't always do that. The infiltration units are meant to get closer to higher up people.
Wait, what are you sending me? Let me see. Oh, God damn it. That's the thumbnail.
Higher up people. That's why she goes after the people she goes after. She doesn't go after John Connor because I don't even know if she's looking for him.
No. Well, that's one of her targets.
She goes after the other resistance leadership and kills them. Oh my god.
I
But
think the thing that really kills this movie is like it doesn't really have the same like heart as the first two. Like it
no,
doesn't have the. I mean, obviously Linda Hamilton's not in this movie. Sarah
No.
Connor died off screen.
I don't like that.
No, like the thing is like there's no there's no like good relationship between John and the new Terminator this time played by Arnold, and the
Well,
action
he-
is not really the
he-
same. And
He tries to do that, like with the whole Hasta La Vista baby, but like, dude, you do realize that this isn't the same Terminator.
no,
Like, I feel like that's common. That would be common sense at that point. That this, you watch the other one get melted down into scrap.
yeah,
So it's not going to be like, you remember anything of that? Like, that was stupid.
and I don't really like Catherine Brewster.
Why?
There's nothing to her. She just exists. Like the moment where like she and John kind of have like a nice little they have like a nice little moment near the end of the film, which I was like, oh, that's cute. But like if you're gonna compare this to like Kyle and Sarah, which was at least shallow in some areas, but like at least it had more complexity than this relationship.
Well, I felt it was supposed to be like, if you're looking into it from like philosophical stuff, I could be full of shit, but like Adam and Eve,
I guess.
because they're like one man, one woman. you know, they're
Yeah,
the two.
I get
The
it.
online sex shop.
Yes, the online sex shop.
I really regret that.
Definitely not the biblical reference.
I really regret that we gave you guys a microphone.
You
Your
had no-
microphone privileges are
You
revoked.
had no choice.
Yeah, I mean that's there, but I just don't think that she's really an interesting character.
Yeah.
I guess she exists just so they can find a way to like waltz into the military base at the end. That's what they do.
Because of her
It's-
dad?
Yeah, because they have that connection.
Well, her dad's the one that put Skynet online, which
Oh, yeah.
somehow still happened.
Yeah, I mean that's
Judgment
what
Day
that's what
happens
sucks
now.
about this movie is like it kind of shits on the themes of the first two movies. Where it's like, oh, no fate but what we make. Never mind, it's inevitable.
Yeah, it's kind of that is kind of stupid.
Yeah,
Or like something I don't really necessarily agree with from a storytelling perspective. But I don't know. I think comparatively to other entries, it's okay.
I will say the ending for as much as I'm like divided on it, I think the way that they handled the ending was great. Like them in the bunker and them
Yeah.
like accepting that everything was about to happen. It conflicts with the rest of the movie because the rest of the movie is like overtly comedic at points. Like it feels like a parody of
Oh,
the
when he
first
puts
two.
his sunglasses on?
Yeah, it feels like a parody of Terminator at certain instances.
Yeah, I thought that part was a little dumb. Or the talk to the hand.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that also kind of harkens back to him learning and being a learning machine.
Yeah, but it definitely felt like it was trying a little too hard to be funny.
And they call him a T850.
Yeah.
So he's like an slightly upgraded T800.
He runs
But
on
he has like
nukes.
he has a therapist thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't they all do that now? 'Cause I thought they all did, but anyway,
They
I
run
don't.
on nuclear power, which I mean, he has a nuclear power explosion in his chest.
I mean, and the tie-in video game for that, which I know we weren't going to really talk about that. He's alive. They bring him in.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, this is dumb.
whatever. Yeah, Terminator 3 is it's just basically like Terminator 2, just without the soul.
Yeah.
It feels like it's like. Even the action in this movie, I'm like, it's not really that great. It kind of has that early 2000s, like, I don't want to say, like, what's the opposite of charm? It's got, like,
Cringe?
yeah, cringe.
Disgust.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, some of the action has that, like, early 2000s, like, oh, it doesn't feel 100% real. Like, some of the CG isn't great.
It doesn't necessarily feel super great.
And I'm not like, oh, it has to be like the action has to be amazing, but at least in a movie like this, it has to at least be like decent. And I guess it is decent, but I can't really say anything else about it. It repeats a lot of moments from T2.
Do you think it's funny, like that they were like, how can we destroy Arnold's Terminator more?
Yeah.
Let's take off half of his face.
His head falls off, and he's fine.
Oh yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. She kicks his head off.
It's just like the thing is also like Arnold, like he manages to like pick up the TX and like throws her into a toilet. Admittedly, that's the best part of the whole movie.
That part is funny.
But it's just like at this point, it's like okay, if we keep advancing, like the evil Terminator, like the good Terminator also has to be like. Now the gap should be even wider.
It just goes to show that the T800 or T850, whatever that whole line, is just better.
I guess.
To go back to actually the first movie, when James Cameron was making it, they had to delay filming because Arnold was doing Conan the Destroyer.
Oh.
And in that time, they had James Cameron write the script for Aliens. And they told him, like, basically, if Terminator doesn't do well, no aliens.
Oh.
So
the first Terminator?
yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm glad that worked out for him.
Because Arnold did Conan Destroyer and Terminator in 84.
Okay.
So that's an interesting thing. But, anyway, to go back to 3, I just forgot to mention that earlier.
It's fine. I don't want to talk about 3 anymore.
Doesn't she take over a motorcycle, too?
Oh, yeah. The TX is so stupid. It's just like,
here's little nanites.
how do you hack a car?
I don't know. You don't. It doesn't work that way.
Can you do it? Mythbusters.
Maybe a Tesla, but we didn't have Teslas in 2003.
There's kind of some kind of weird connection where it's like, oh, the TX created the computer virus that they're using to activate Skynet. So it's like Skynet created itself, but whatever.
Yeah, that's yeah. And there's also hunter killers.
Oh yeah, in the
little ones.
In the modern day, do we want to talk about the deleted scene where there's like,
where he has
where Arnold's like
accent?
a human? Yeah,
yeah. Where it's like Sergeant Candy or whatever.
Yeah, I do like the joke where they're like, "Oh, we can fix it."
It's the other guy as Arnold's voice.
But it also doesn't make any sense. And at this point, I'm like, why do all the Terminators look like Arnold? Bless you. I don't
know.
Like, at least for the first 2, I'm like, oh, maybe they're from like a same like model or whatever. But it's also like, okay, but this is technically like a different timeline now.
Oh no, wait. In 3,
yeah,
they talk about it. They sent it
Oh,
after
yeah.
him because they thought it would cause him to hesitate because of his child connection to that particular looking Terminator.
Yeah. Okay.
And the rest of them are different timelines, so it doesn't matter.
All right. I think I hate this movie more now that I'm thinking about Terminator 3. I was like going into it, I was like, it's not bad. It's kind of bad.
Do you want to talk about Terminator 4?
Yeah, we can actually.
Salvation?
I do actually. You know what? I will say, I actually think Salvation is okay.
That's because it moves forward with the plot.
Yeah, it doesn't. I actually like Salvation because, well, okay, I'm gonna knock it a bit because it didn't really.
Your fucking lights.
Oh yeah, that's where that originated from. DeGeneres and I love the Christian Bale freak out. That's where that originated from. But I will say I kind of knock it like 1 point because the style of the movie isn't like the future war from the first 2 Terminator films.
Well, it can't be. That was all models and stuff. I mean, I
Well, I
understand.
know,
it.
but I mean, just in terms of like that cool like blue and like purples and stuff like that, I prefer that over.
Well, that was also nighttime.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
So maybe because it's daytime, it looks different.
Yeah.
Also, having a Jeep Wrangler from that year the movie came out in the movie, makes sense.
Helped a little bit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like Terminator Salvation a little bit more just because it's the only Terminator sequel that does something different.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not doing like time travel shit anymore.
I actually wanted to see more of that future war.
Yeah.
I think they should have continued with that rather than, we're going to go do another time loop, Genesis.
I mean, there's some of that here because they're still like, oh, Kyle Reese is my dad. I have to save him. And everyone's like, he's a child. What are you talking about?
He's going to be my best friend, Dad.
yeah, just trust me on this. I think my biggest thing with this movie, though, is I don't really like Marcus.
Oh, Marcus Wright?
Yeah.
Is it because you don't like the actor?
Well, no, I think the actor's fine. I just don't really care for his character that much.
Was he like a murderer or something?
He was like a murderer in like 2003, and then he had some kind of like a deal in order to like, I guess, donate himself to science or whatever.
He didn't want to stay locked up for 50 years, so he donated his body early to science.
Yeah, and then he ended up being like a robot.
So Helena Bonham Carter.
Right, yeah.
Who's bald.
Yeah, I don't know. She had some kind of cancer.
I think she was
or whatever.
sick, yeah.
But
who then becomes Skynet.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't
think about it too much.
Yeah.
Just like watch this movie. Don't think.
Well, no, Skynet took on her appearance.
What,
I guess
more pleasant for him.
Yeah, to kind of like be like, oh yeah, I'm a human or whatever. Even though I'm.
What is he? He's like a TH or something.
I don't know.
I can't remember what his.
But
model
he's like a
designation
robot,
is.
and I just don't think. I don't know.
But he has human organs.
He's like a
Remember
hybrid. He's like a cyborg.
Later in the movie, when he's fighting the Arnold Terminator, that's like 8 times the size, he gets punched in the chest, and it makes his heart stop.
He's like the robot lady in the latest film.
Oh, I didn't even think. of
An
that.
augment or whatever they call him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think another point of contention is that this film isn't R-rated.
Oh, that's right. It's PG-13.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't kill it too much, but at the same time, it's like it's a very mature story, so I kind of expect it to not hold back in certain areas. I mean, John Connor gets impaled at one point.
Yeah, and he gets the iconic scar on his face.
Oh yeah, yeah, right. How do you feel about the Arnold in this movie? It looks terrible.
I like that they got rid of it very quickly.
Yeah. You're like, this looks terrible. Let's get rid of this.
This is not
thing.
great CGI, but he's gone. Okay.
I at least
They melted his
appreciate
face
that
off.
they didn't have him like talk.
Well, I don't think he needs to talk. He's just there to like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah. I did like that it was there, I guess,
But I do like that he just takes a grenade to the face immediately, and it's like, okay, we don't have to pay Arnold likeness anymore. Or
I mean, besides that CG, there are some actual practical effects in this movie.
yeah,
So this was like the last film that Stan Winston worked on before he passed away, and
that's right. Yeah.
this is probably some of his best work. I appreciate a lot of the action sequences and stuff like that. The only thing I don't really like about this movie, again, it doesn't really have the same heart as the first two. It's trying its own thing, I guess.
Well, I think we're gonna put it out there and preface it that none of the ones after
No,
two
no,
have
no,
the
no.
same heart as the first two.
No. Well, I would argue zero, but we'll talk about that.
I don't know about that one.
We'll talk
about
yeah,
it.
but Salvation is okay.
I like the giant robot. I think it's called a harvester
Yeah.
that like takes people. I think that was cool to see because in the motorcycle Terminators, because I like that they that's more of what I wanted to see is more of like the variety of stuff they had in the future.
Expansion of the world.
Because it's not just, we have just these two Terminators and then some other variations that are slightly more advanced. I just like that they showed off more of that. That, yeah, Skynet is a big threat. They have all of these different machines for various different tasks. And they showed like a T-600, which had the rubber skin that was falling off with the minigun.
Yeah.
And how big and clunky it was. And that shows you the evolutionary that the T-800 has. Because that's like their newest model at that point. Also, did you notice that the scale of the T-800 was kind of off about how big it was?
I don't know. I don't. Maybe
he was pretty massive.
Maybe John Connor's just a short king. Well, I think they shot it in a way that's like you can't tell too much. I guess I didn't notice it too much. This film, I forgot to mention, was directed by Mick G, who directed the Charlie's Angels movies, and would also go on to produce Tall Girl.
The ones with like Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and
Yeah,
Lucy
those
Liu?
ones.
Those ones are okay.
Yeah.
The newest one was not good.
No. Well, he had no hand in that.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up. That the director of this movie went on to produce Tall Girl.
I don't know what that is.
Do you know that meme of everyone on TikTok being
where she's like, I'm in 8th grade or whatever, and I'm
beat
super
that.
tall.
And everyone's like,
he's
I have cancer.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this is okay.
He's a competent enough filmmaker, I think.
Yeah.
But again, I don't really relate to the characters that much. I like this film's style. I
Yeah.
don't really like the story that much.
I think it's pretty good. I like it better than 3.
I think it's a good template for like a trilogy of films, but we never got that trilogy.
Look, it's the only 4. It's the
Yeah.
only 4th film. Because if we go to Terminator Genesis, that's Terminator 3.
Okay, let's get to Genesis.
Yes,
now,
let's
because
get
I
to
wanna talk
Terminator
about this.
Genesis.
Terminator Genesis fucking sucks, bro. I hate this movie. And I actually liked it as a kid.
I think it's okay.
Oh,
I
man.
think it's okay. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's right in that like slot. It's lower end okay.
My issue with this film is that, well, okay, time travel is obviously a big, important part of this franchise.
I think it's okay because they tried to do something different.
Well, in some areas.
But they introduced like, different timelines.
But that's my issue with this film.
It makes it too complicated.
Yeah, that's my issue, is that like the first 2 films are like, they're not all about the time travel. It's like the first one's a chase film and it's a love story. The second one, it's like a chase story and it's like, it's like a story of like, motherhood, and it's like, machines, like this film, like Genesis, focuses too much on like, we got to get to this point in time, we got to do this, we got to do that, we're going to time travel to this point, that came from there. It focuses too much on like the framework.
And the whole, we're going to make the main bad guy John Connor, which undoes everything the other 4 movies had.
Well, it's not going to be the first and only time that it undermines the whole John Connor thing.
Well, I mean, you're right.
I forgot to mention this about Salvation, but originally the ending was going to be that John dies, but Marcus takes on his personality, or takes on his appearance. I actually think that would have been interesting. Like, Marcus takes on that leadership role, but...
How would he have done that, though? Because they destroyed that whole, like, skin thing.
I don't know. I think I don't know how they would have done
Interesting.
But I think it would have been a more interesting ending. And the whole John Connor is like a nanobot Terminator in Genesis.
Yeah, and they make him more complicated.
Is it even like thematically like important? Like why is like, oh, we turned the savior of humanity into a bad guy? Why? I don't know.
Because he's like, well, I was wrong. Skynet's actually not that bad. Maybe it's because you're a fucking robot now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's stupid.
That and Matt Smith.
Oh yeah,
he's Skynet.
Yeah. What? I mean, they clearly had him in there, I guess, as like a little nod to Doctor Who, but
maybe. But I don't know. I like the aspect of like Arnold's character. I like that they tie it back. I think they did a good job of recreating the opening of the original Terminator, and I think that's really the only good thing.
I think that's the best part of the movie.
That's literally like that's
up until the point where
really
it's like, I mean, I like the whole like subversion of like, oh, give me your clothes, and it's like, oh no, you give me your clothes.
Well,
like, he doesn't say that, but
later it doesn't make any sense when the T-1000 that they have in there, when he throws a piece of himself into the T-800 from the original movie and it starts to work. That doesn't make any sense. He's not a TX. He's a T-1000. He doesn't have that ability.
That was just a moment where... Do you remember in the first movie where they spent the entire movie trying to kill one Terminator, and then as soon as that gets activated, Kyle just shoots its head off? That whole... The whole point of the movie is shot, because it's like, oh...
Well, he uses a big gun. He uses a big gun with like special bullets.
Well, yeah, but it's like...
That he didn't have. Because yet he couldn't go to a 7-Eleven and just be like, I need this gun.
Devalues the point of the first movie. And like, there should be like a ratio of like how many times a Terminator kills a human versus how many times a human kills a Terminator. Like they easily dispatched the T-800 and T-1000.
It's like 3 billion to whatever to like 6.
But it takes like a whole like fucking like police department, and they can't even like defeat the T-800.
No, yeah.
And then they're just like capping Terminators in Genesis like it's nothing. It's so dumb.
They only fight one Terminator.
No, they fight the T-1000 and the T-800.
Yeah, but they hit him with acid.
Yeah.
That's different.
They dropped acid on him.
Yeah. And then Arnold's character just holds him and melts his arm off. He's like, oh, I can't go now. You fucking idiot.
Well, they have all this time to
My flesh will grow back. It'll be fine.
Why do they want to travel to the point in time where it gets activated?
I don't know.
They have a fucking decade to stop this shit from happening.
They have more than a decade. They have like 20 years.
Genesis is so stupid.
Maybe because they're like, you know what? Let's just get on with the plot of the movie.
Come on, Mr. Filmmakers, what would you guys do differently?
I wouldn't have made the movie. I would have just stopped after 2. I would have known when to stop.
But money.
Oh, you're right. That's a good point.
The merchandising rights alone.
Well, this movie flopped, so clearly nobody gives a shit about Terminator anymore. But they
made another one.
I know. We'll get there. We'll get there.
And they're making more. Like law of diminishing returns. Every time they do something and they make it more complicated, it's not as good. Mm-hmm. You can't change. You can't add more shit to the formula and think it'll be the same exact taste.
No,
it's going to be different.
Genesis just goes like it tries to be different in some areas, and it tries to be like convoluted, but that's not what Terminator is. It's a very simple story, and I think the problem is that T1 and 2 are like, they are simple stories despite the complex like setup. And I think that again, if there's the heart, this film does not have the heart. It tries with the whole Sarah and Kyle thing, but it's literally backpedaling off a relationship that was treated a lot better in 1984. Also, the actors who play Kyle and Sarah in this movie, I'm going to be generous and say they did not do a good job.
I think Emilia Clarke's fine.
Emilia Clarke is fine. Jai Courtney was horrible. Jai Courtney does no.
I mean, he's not really necessarily the same kind of Kyle Reese, because Kyle Reese is not a big dude, and Jai Courtney is kind of big.
Yeah,
he's a bigger, muscular guy. He's more built, and I felt like Michael Bihn's character. Like, Michael Biehn himself was not a super built guy. He's like an everyman.
And that's what made him a better protagonist.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be the same Kyle. And it's like, no, it isn't.
Should I just use Anton Yelchin?
Well, I guess, that's true.
He was alive.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He passed away 2016?
I don't remember.
I don't either. Yeah, because this was 2015.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, there's a bunch of other actors they could have cast. It suffers a lot from from poor casting with some of the stuff, and just not a very great plot. Storyline with a lot of holes, a lot of things that make it too complicated.
Arnold is pretty good, but at the end of the day, he can't save the movie.
I like him in that. I think he's fine. I like that he's malfunctioning a bit, like showing his age with his hand not working right. I am confused by the ending of that one. Is he now a T-1000, or is he like a hybrid between a T-1000 and a T-800?
They're not going to make any sequels to it, so who cares?
I know they're not, but I would have liked them to maybe do that because they leave it very wide open.
And they also have a post-credit scene where Skynet survives.
And it's like a child.
Yeah, well, it's like a little, it's like a computer or whatever.
Underneath the building.
Yeah, they're trying to make it like a Marvel movie.
I mean, this film, I think it was rewritten. Time travel, so all these events had never happened. So
yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate like that they tried some new things, and the film's not boring.
Yeah,
the film is definitely not boring, and like it's at least like entertainingly bad in some areas. But
it's
like
a good sit down and turn your brain off.
Yeah, but I might as well just give myself a lobotomy at that point.
Also, her hair color's wrong.
Oh, no. Stop the presses on that one.
She's got brunette hair. Sarah Connor was blonde.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I like J.K. Simmons in this movie.
Oh, yeah, he's good. I like J.K. Simmons in pretty much anything he's in.
Yeah.
Whiplash was in that movie?
Yeah, Mr. Whiplash himself.
Was in that movie.
He's like a cop and like in 84, and then it kind of pays off when they time travel to the future. That's like the only clever thing. But then again, you know what? Okay, you know what also pissed me off? When they were in the 80s, they didn't like try to replicate the score of the original film. Like I would have liked a
They're not in there long enough for them to do that.
I know, but I would have appreciated like the fact that because it doesn't really feel like I mean, obviously the original Terminator takes place in the 80s and like a majority of it like is in that era, but this film doesn't really feel like it takes advantage of that time travel like to be like, oh, we're in different times.
Yeah.
It doesn't really like have that like moment.
In retrospective, there's a lot more they could have done to make it a better film and a filmic experience in general.
It's very generic in a lot of aspects.
It is. It's just a lot of mistakes were made. Speaking of mistakes.
Well, first I just want to say, do you remember in Genesis when like they were making like an app like Genesis? It was like, oh, it's a new operating system. And then the company that was also making that was also making a time machine.
Well, didn't they not know they were making it? Wasn't it like John Connor?
They had to know it was for something.
They're like, oh, he's building this computer. It's so good. Liquid cooled. It uses Coca-Cola.
We made the Willy Wonka
Wasn't it Miles
factory.
Dyson's kid?
Yeah, it was Danny Dyson. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just like a tie-in to
It's
T2.
so stupid.
It's
It's just playing on nostalgia.
all right, let's talk about Dark Fate now.
Yeah.
Now,
let's get to
how much of Dark Fate have you seen?
Most of it.
Okay, you saw. Okay, because I watched it for the first time like a week ago. Oh brother, oh boy,
Didn't like it.
I hated this movie, and I think my biggest problem with it, you know what? Okay,
I do think before you get that, I do think it's funny when Sarah Connor introduces herself. It's almost like she's expecting like a big like I'm Sarah Connor.
Oh yeah,
like
I'll
who?
be back. Yeah.
Fuck.
Okay, I will say about this movie, it is a competently shot and directed film.
So T.J. Miller.
Tim Miller.
Tim Miller.
Very wrong Miller. We're stay far away from that first one as possible. Yeah, Tim Miller does an okay job here, but I think the big thing with this film, like the reason why I hated it is that it's just excessive. Like the action is just like the action doesn't feel super grounded. It feels like because everyone's doing like ninja like shit and like trying to have like complicated like choreography and stuff.
Yeah.
It just gets like there's no tension, and the third act, genuinely, I had to like pause it and take a break because it was too much. They were like flying around in zero gravity, and like
in the plane, you mean?
Yeah, in the plane, and then like Sarah Connor's in like a car, like falling into a river, and then she's swimming upside down. I'm like, she is fucking 70 years old.
She did like Linda Hamilton talked about how that movie was incredibly difficult for her to do.
I can imagine that being,
physically.
You should not have her do that stuff.
No,
it's too much.
No, and okay, the opening. It's the opening of the movie, I think, from what I remember of where they kill off John Connor.
Yeah. The biggest point of contention in
with
this film.
another Terminator that looks like Arnold.
And look, when I saw that and I heard that, I was like, okay, if the film finds a way to justify that, it doesn't. I
It
will
doesn't,
accept it.
Because what they don't know is the fact that the first two movies are still happening,
Yeah.
and they destroyed Skynet. So this one's like, I'm here for Skynet, and then fucking shoots him with a shotgun twice.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, there's no point. It's over.
Again, though, I would have been fine with that if we had like new interesting characters. But the problem is this film doesn't have any new interesting characters.
Oh, we're gonna introduce Legion, a new robot thing.
I will say though, I think Grace is an okay like concept. I like the idea of her being like, oh, like after all this fighting, she's like weak and has to get like medicine and stuff like that. Like I think that shit is interesting
Because
like,
she's a human.
Yeah. It makes her feel more human and stuff like that. And
But if you think about it, all they're doing is the first movie again,
Yeah.
but with more characters. Because like, oh, we have to keep Danny alive because she's the leader of the resistance. Okay.
yeah, and this film is just like, oh, man, like I remember like we were like at the big opening action sequence where like Grace is trying to save Danny from the Rev 9.
Yeah. I hate the design of that Terminator.
It's it's not great.
Oh, here's two Terminators. She shoots it with a fucking rocket and it doesn't blow up. That would have
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's,
And
again,
after hitting it with her car.
that is the most overpowered Terminator, I think, because it can also hack things like the TX.
Yeah, and it doesn't have. It looks like it doesn't have a brain.
No,
It's no.
But the big opening like action sequence happens, and it's like I check the time. It's like 15 minutes into the movie. I'm like, it's just gonna keep getting bigger and bigger, isn't it?
But the when they're in the future and they show like Grace's flashback, so, all that stuff for saving Danny, the Terminator or whatever the hell they're called, I can't remember if they're called Terminators still.
No, I think they're still called Terminators.
But they look like they took it from another movie called was it Tomorrow Never Dies, the Live Die Repeat
or
movie
the
with
Tomorrow War.
No, not Tomorrow War.
There
That's
are too many of these shitty
what is it?
action films. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the one with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
But they look like the enemies from that. Like they just kind of took the digital files.
okay.
But like, there's no real originality
No.
to it. Arnold's Terminator being a drapist, like a drapery guy.
Drapist is not the best word.
I know,
for it.
that's why I said a drapery guy.
You're
and
on
having like
thin ice,
shut up,
The
and having
thinnest.
a family
Yeah.
doesn't make any fucking sense. After you'd be like, you know what? I regret killing John Connor.
No, you don't.
You're a fucking machine.
Again, remember that scene in T1 where Kyle's like, the Terminator doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear?
Yeah.
Boy, was he
It grew a
wrong.
conscience? Wow. For John.
Yeah.
Stop. No. Just don't. And then another thing at the end, when he destroys the Rev 9 with his power source, or Grace's power source.
Yeah, it's Grace's power source.
They're both still intact, technically, on the bottom of that thing.
Yeah.
So that could just lead to the causality loop of, oh, look, we're going to take his brain chip out and create this weapons defense
Yeah,
system called Skynet.
You'd think by now, like, Sarah would have been like, no, let's burn that thing.
Yes. Like, you know what? They're still alive. We got to kind of go and melt them down.
I hesitate to say what is worse, this or Genesis. I think
This.
I think I hated Dark Fate more just because it's like it's so like excessive, and it's just like at this point of the franchise it's just like, okay, we're doing two people go back in time and they gotta protect this person, one wants to kill them, and it's just like, just stop. It's just like, just do something different.
I do like that there's the moment where Sarah's talking about the Terminators and Skynet and everything, where Grace is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, good. So
Yeah.
it means that what they did worked. Which
Sure.
ultimately means that John Connor in this particular story means nothing. He's not.
Yeah, but at the same
he's-
time, it's like, why even look? Honestly, though, I think it was a mistake having that bit where they killed him at the exact beginning.
Oh, it
Like
was
they
stupid.
should have. If they were gonna go through with that plot point, I think it would have been better if they revealed it more in the middle of the story.
Or just don't kill him at all.
Well, I mean, then it's like, what can he really do? But also, it's like, then what do we do this with this story?
Just like have him be an accountant in Tucson, Arizona or something. And just be like, oh yeah, what does he do? Oh, he does tax law.
Sure. I mean, I don't know.
He got really into finances
Yeah.
after, like he saw him hacking ATMs. He was like, you know what? This is actually really easy to do.
Yeah.
I should protect people from this.
What if
No.
he was like, oh, I'm gonna develop a new software, and then he makes a new Skynet?
He becomes a gym teacher.
Yeah. What?
What?
my thing was entirely different.
Well, I'm just thinking of like super mundane bullshit.
You know what's funny, by the way? The last
You
shot.
have a problem with PE teachers?
No, I don't have a problem with PE teachers. But
Well, we got a PE teacher coming in right now. He's gonna beat the shit out of you.
No.
He's gonna throw a dodgeball at you.
Yeah, oh yeah, the final shot in this movie is literally the final shot of Back to the Future.
Oh,
It looks like the
Yeah.
It looks like the street that
where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah, it looks like that street, and I'm like, that's literally just the final shot of Back to the Future.
Uh-huh. What is it? What is it? Lion Estates or whatever that he lives in? Back to the
I don't
Future?
know, something like that. I think.
They just do that, and then a DeLorean comes out of someone's garage.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else in Dark Fate that I liked. I don't think anything.
There's not much.
No.
I mean, what is his name? The actor that plays the Rev 9? Gabriel?
I don't know.
He's
Gabriel Luna.
Gabriel
I
Luna.
think.
Yeah, he's Tommy in Last of Us. I think he was all right.
He was all right, but the Rev 9 is probably my least favorite Terminator.
Yeah.
Like again, it's like why even bother like with the stealth shit? He literally was like holding off like a group of like 10 guys and he was like stabbing them. Like I'm just like why?
Oh, yeah, because he can make, like, spikes come out of his body, right?
It's like why even bother trying to like morph into other people and like infiltrating? Just fucking I don't know, man.
It's again,
just
like, it becomes
excessive.
too complicated, and it gums up the works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This film it's just like too much. And again, it's like at this point in the series, it's like do something new.
That and it's them trying to. The ending is them trying to call back to the first one, with them getting in almost an exact same Jeep that
Yeah.
Sarah got into in Mexico.
Reference, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a positive. I liked the scene where Arnold saw a pair of sunglasses on the table and said, "You know what? No," and he puts it down. That was an okay bit of like nostalgia pandering, but also like the Terminator always wears sunglasses anyways, so it's like, who cares?
Yeah, and the whole, and this is Texas when he's like talking about how he got all the guns.
Oh yeah, it was okay, I guess.
That's kind of funny.
So Terminator Zero is a new anime that was released.
Just an abrupt cut.
Look, I don't fucking want to talk about Dark Fate anymore, man. Oh wait, we didn't talk about Terminator the ride.
We don't need to. Okay.
It's the best Terminator.
We really
3
don't
since
need
Terminator
to.
3.
I watched it in person.
Oh, did you actually?
Yeah.
How was it?
Okay.
Is it like a fun experience?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's like a 4D movie kind
Okay,
of stick.
all right.
Do they still do it, or they stopped doing it?
I think they stopped it.
They're renovations because they're adding Mario.
Oh, okay.
Dude, the Terminator ride? Oh, hell yeah.
It's a me, a T800.
Well, I think we can talk about Terminator Zero now.
Yeah, there's some stuff with that I'm a little confused on.
Well, okay, so this was made by Mattson Tomlin, who I'm not sure what else he's worked on, and Production IG, who is the company that made Ghost in the Shell, and they worked on some of the animated sequences for Kill Bill Volume 1.
Okay.
So they're pretty big. They're a pretty big anime company.
Kind of a big deal.
They're kind of a big deal. They're that guy. Terminator Zero, when it was announced, I was like, oh, it's a new Terminator show? Okay. And then I kind of forgot about it, and I think everyone forgot about it because at this point in the series, we're all kind of just done with Terminator. But I will actually say, I went into this with zero expectations. I actually really liked this show.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best thing since Terminator 2. Again, not a very high bar, I'm aware. But it's actually like a very entertaining show. Like, I mean, for one thing, it's like an anime and it's like, you know, it's very different from the rest of the series. And I appreciated that it went in a new direction. I liked the dynamic with like the family.
Yeah.
And
that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. There was genuinely like a twist halfway through the series, which I don't want to get into in case anyone wants to watch the show.
Well,
we'll
say
talk a little.
spoilers. So if you guys want to go and watch the show, you can pause our podcast here. And then
we
come
won't
back
get
to
it.
it
We
later,
won't get into.
but we will get into spoilers about this for this discussion.
Just not
to
yet,
give you a heads up.
there was a twist halfway through the show that I was genuinely like, oh, I'm actually like really surprised by this, and I really liked like where the series went. I think my only flaw with the show was I didn't really love the Kyle Reese stand-in character. Aiko was her name. Like she was fine, but I mean, and they definitely find a way to justify her appearance. But I also think like I didn't think her story was really that interesting. And I'm sure if this eventually does get a season 2, it will follow up on her story like a little bit more and go more in depth. But I think she was kind of unneeded after her introduction. And I actually really liked the Terminator in this show. I mean, there's obviously there weren't that many
You mean
guns.
Timothy Oliphant's Terminator?
Yeah. Oh, does he voice him in the English version?
Yeah.
Oh, I watched the show in Japanese.
Ooh.
I can't stand watching a show or like a movie that's like it takes place in this country, but everyone speaks English.
The English one is really good, though.
Okay, I watched the Japanese version, so
You should watch the English one.
Well,
Timothy Oliphant's really good.
okay. I watched the Japanese version
Although-
just because it's an anime and also like I know the show was originally written in English and then translated to Japanese.
I can't. The older brother, I can't stand him.
No.
I think he's really fucking annoying.
Oh yeah, but that's
He's like, let me take apart your new thing that you love.
Oh yeah.
Let me do it. Just let me do it. No.
Well, he has like a bit of an arc.
He's a little shit.
Oh yeah, I agree, but that's part of his character arc. He learns not to be a little shit.
Does he, though?
I guess not. They kind of leave the door open, like maybe he's still a little bit sinister.
He continues to do that stuff, though. Like, oh, I'll trust you, and then I'm going to pull a gun on you.
I will say though, it was very tense. Like at the final episode where he had to make that one decision, and I was like, oh god, is he actually going to do it? I'm kind of worried about this, but no, I liked the kids, and I liked their dad Malcolm, and I liked the kind of introspection like with him and the new AI Koroko, and I'm glad that the show isn't like, oh, we're doing
Oh, it's
Skynet, or I guess it depends on the translation or whatever. I don't know, but we're not doing like Skynet. Skynet exists, but it's more in the background. It's more about like this new conflict.
Well, Skynet is over in America.
Yeah, Skynet is still like a
This
villain.
takes place in 1997.
Yeah, in Japan. So it's at least like, oh, Skynet's still around, but we're getting there. We're working on this new conflict now, though. And yeah, I mean, it's a very simple story, and I do like the style of the show. I like how it's like very 80s inspired off of the original Terminator, and the Terminator himself is also really good. It's probably my second favorite Terminator. It's another T-800 like the original one.
But it's not Arnold.
Yeah, it's not Arnold.
And they do a whole thing where they show different T-800s built up and ready to go.
Not everyone has to be Arnold, which I appreciate.
But it should have been.
Oh, whatever.
I'm just kidding.
It's animated, so
No, I
it
think
kind of looks
I
like
like
Arnold.
Timothy Oliphant. I think it was fine.
Yeah.
And Rosario Dawson is the voice of the AI.
Yeah. So what? Okay, you said you're confused on the ending.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna get into spoilers,
Spoilers.
there's some stuff with that. Like, she's like, "Oh, I'll help you guys," and then she does. But why do they have to go in hiding? If she's deciding to help humanity,
Oh yeah.
why do they need to go into the sewer system or hide or whatever from her?
I assume it was more like because Skynet is coming and doing a thing, so they.
But
just,
she's going to continuously stop Skynet from doing anything. Eventually, it's going to run out of weapons.
Yeah.
And she has an army of robots that obviously can tear apart a Terminator pretty easily.
Yeah, maybe.
And she could just make more.
I just assumed it was because Skynet
and
was coming.
The ending, she gets a Terminator. She gets the Terminator head. So, like, is that supposed to be sinister? Or I don't
Wait,
understand
who gets the
that.
Terminator head?
The robots bring her the Terminator's head.
Oh. Well, I assume. Well, I don't know. A follow up for season 2.
Yeah, so I don't understand that whole aspect of it. And then the branching timelines, I think that they did that as a way to clean up the other movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, so we can just say those ones don't exist in the original timeline, which
This
is
is not the first time the Terminator franchise has done this, by the way.
these can exist in an alternate timeline. So
It's every
we never
movie
have to
now.
visit them ever again.
No.
And they don't affect, like John Connor in T2. He's still alive. They never sent another Terminator. It was just the
Look,
two.
the Terminator timeline is fucked beyond recognition at this point. That at this point, if you told me that Terminator 0 was like a reboot, I'd believe you, because like it feels
I mean, it
like
could be a
it's-
soft reboot.
Yeah, it feels like a soft reboot, spin-off kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was a lot. I mean, the style of it I liked. I liked the Terminator in that used different resources, like putting the crossbow in his arm.
Yeah, because I think there was a thing where like Mattson Tomlin was kind of told by the Japanese staff, like, oh yeah, guns are like heavily regulated in Japan.
Yeah,
so,
like police have guns.
yeah. So
much.
they kind of wrote that into the plot where
Yeah.
like the Terminator was. I like the resourcefulness of the Terminator, like kind of using the crossbow and.
Well, yeah, it does make sense because of the area that he's in. The region that he's
Yeah.
in has different gun laws, and he's not readily able to go to a gun store and just steal guns.
Yeah.
He has
There's
to
not
use
that
what he
awkward
has.
scene where he asks somebody for a gun from the future
Yeah,
in the first Terminator.
I forgot about that.
Okay,
Blaze
that's the
plasma
one
rifle
flaw
with
in
a
the first
40-watt
Terminator.
range.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked the Terminator. I liked the family. It's really not a lot for me to say about this show. It's very short. I think you could. Yeah, I watched the whole thing in like 3 hours, something like that.
She seemed like the nanny character.
Oh yeah. That's the twist
being
I
a
was talking
Terminator.
about. I did not actually see that coming at all.
I saw it coming.
Oh, you? Oh, wow. Good for
Episode 1, I
you.
saw it coming. I was like,
Look
she's
at
gonna be a Terminator,
you.
or she's from the future.
Oh, well, yeah. I didn't see. I don't think I was thinking of Malcolm being from the future. Were you seeing that coming?
Him having dreams about that stuff and knowing what he knew kind of was like, I'm a little.
I was like,
suspecting
there's
of that.
something going on, but
Yeah.
yeah, I did like the character of the nanny. Oh, fuck, what was her name?
Yeah, no, I thought that she was interesting. Her character growth.
Misaki.
Yeah, her character growth of being kind of timid to like basically being like, shut the fuck up and get in the car
Oh,
or whatever.
where she goes into like automatic and like kill all those people.
Oh yeah, because they were gonna kill the kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great scene. I liked it.
Yeah, and then the little shit pulled a gun on her. He's like, he's gonna kill us. She was doing that to protect you, idiot.
Well, it's a kid. You got to give him a little bit of leeway here.
I don't.
Well, yeah, he also is like he's also distrusting of machines and stuff like that.
Nah.
Whatever. I thought it was good. You know what? Conflict. We need conflict
Need
here.
conflict. He's a little sociopath that likes to take apart robot faces.
Oh, I agree with that. Well, yeah, remember that bit near the end where like the Terminator said like, "Oh yeah, you're the one that sent me back in time because you struck a deal with Skynet."
Yeah, you broke her peace.
Yeah.
Which is like, if he did that, then just tell Skynet like to not do it. Just give them the information that they have. Maybe maybe Skynet should have been like, we're gonna send this robot, this Terminator, to a little like the day before we do this, and then here's a flash drive with the information on it. Plug it in.
Well,
Oh,
they can't
maybe we were wrong.
They-
Okay, we won't launch these nukes, and we'll work with humanity. Thanks.
Well, they can't send a flash drive. They can only send naked people.
They could fucking cut it into his arm and do it. Like, look at all the stuff that was hidden behind flesh. All they
Oh,
gotta do is
that's
like, okay,
true.
slice.
Okay.
Flash drive,
Okay.
and he's
Fair
just-
enough.
No, they could have done a whole lot with that, and just I'm thinking too, literally, I guess about stuff that makes sense. That if they figured out a way to make a deal or make peace, then that means there's some sort of an arrangement that can be made. Then just send that dude to that time and talk to Skynet from that period because of that information. Just forward it like, hey, here's a message from your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Do this. Okay.
Yeah, and I will say the what I was talking about before, where Aiko was like, "Oh yeah, I'm actually Malcolm's mom" or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I was like, "Okay."
It's your mom.
It's like we don't really. I didn't feel like we needed her.
I thought she was fine. I thought she was all right.
I know there were a lot of people complaining because there's not that many people talking about this the show, and the people who are basically like those like film reviewers who are like, Hollywood's woke now or whatever.
Oh, I mean incels?
Yeah, those guys. Okay. But the people who are talking about the show are like, oh, she's overpowered, because there is that one scene at the beginning where she's like dangling and the Terminator's holding on to her. I mean, I get it. The thing is fucking heavy, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm at least able to have a little bit of leniency.
They should go back to, 1986?
Yeah.
And look at the Queen alien holding on to Ellen Ripley's fucking leg and taking her shoe.
Yeah.
Okay. Shut up.
Yeah. I'm able
She's
to
a
have
Terminator. It's so heavy. She can't do it. Yes, she can. She's doing it right now. It's a world of fantasy.
Yeah. And it's an anime, so I have a little bit of leniency with that. It's a little bit more fantastical.
Or they could just subvert expectations and have her rip her fucking leg off.
Oh, yeah. That would have, yeah.
Just have her have a peg leg the whole time.
Oh,
just like a peg leg covered in flesh.
We can't send your wooden leg back in time.
We can't give you a robot leg.
Sorry
But we're
about
going to give
that.
you this wood leg that we covered in flesh.
And there, and there's that character in the future who's like the prophet, and she has like knowledge of time travel and stuff. And it's like, ooh, who could she be?
Watch it be like, it's fucking Sarah Connor. It's like,
Oh,
no.
I hope that's not the case. That would suck.
Season 2, I'm Sarah Connor.
I give it up to this series for like. There's only like one reference to like John, and it's like a character who's not even John Connor. It's like a robot that they call John, and they're like, or something like that.
I don't remember that.
See, it doesn't really matter too much. It was more just like a reference, but
Well, it wouldn't make any sense unless it's like the original timeline.
yeah.
But it's not. It's not the original timeline, because if it's John Connor existing, they would have stopped Skynet in the 90s.
Well, it could be in the timeline of the first one, but again, I'm like, I don't give a shit about the timeline. I just want a
The
new
timeline of the first
series.
one and the second one are the same.
Yeah,
They interconnect.
no, I get it. But my thing with this series is just like it's doing its own thing. I'm gonna disconnect like, the rest of the knowledge of the Terminator franchise. Because it's enjoyable for what it is, and it's its own thing. I know people will be like, oh, Terminator's all about the Connors and stuff.
Yeah.
But if that happens, it's like, oh, then we get like Terminator 3 and Dark Fate again. It's just like we're doing the same shit again. It's just like, I want new things out of this franchise.
You said like it's about the Connors, and all I'm thinking about is like Roseanne.
Oh, yeah. It's
Like
about those
Roseanne,
guys.
Roseanne X Terminator.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
Dan, can you kill the T-800?
And I know some people probably won't give this the time of the day just because it's animated and it's Terminator, which I insist. Please watch the show. It's pretty good. It's got some flaws, but it's pretty short.
Hey,
It's fun.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. You can watch it in English or Japanese and have a good time. If you're, like
Turn it on in the background while you do stuff.
No, you can watch the show and watch it. Give it some attention. It's a good show. Sean may not love it. Who's calling you?
An optometrist.
Oh, cool.
I have an eye doctor appointment on Thursday.
Well, now you got to answer it on camera.
I'm not answering that on camera. That violates my HIPAA law. You understand?
I'm not a hippo. Anyway,
What the fuck did you just say?
Anyway, in order to wrap up our discussion, I don't know how prepared you are for this, but I did a little ranking of all the Terminator.
Oh, I didn't rank any of them.
That's fine. I can.
For me, it'll be 2, 1, and the rest of them can be whatever.
Where does 0 kind of fall on your?
Maybe 3, I guess.
So 2, 1, 0.
2, 1, 0.
That's funny.
Yeah, 2, 1, 0. Then maybe Salvation. Let me think. Salvation.
So I like that Terminator 0 is like your third favorite, but it's also a pretty low bar because the rest of the sequels are really bad.
They're really bad. So which of the three Which of the three?
Oh yeah, okay.
Trilogy third ones am I gonna do?
What do you think is the best Terminator 3?
It's gonna be Rise of the Machines probably.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's gonna be Rise of the Machines, and then Genesis, and then Dark Fates.
See, I kind of because my list goes like at the lowest is Genesis. I'm thinking about having Dark Fate be the lowest now. So I guess it's a tie between Genesis and Dark Fate, and then Rise of the Machines, Salvation, 0, and just because I like T1 style and like simple story, I prefer T1 to T2. So that's kind of my thing.
Okay.
The Terminator is my favorite one. T2 is still good.
Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I have a question for the Terminator fans.
Okay.
Do they ever say you have been terminated when they
Actually,
kill
he
somebody,
does.
Or
Yeah.
they do?
He does.
So if
In
Town
3.
figured that out, that means this franchise really sucks.
I'm about to terminate you, but then at the last second they shoot the robot and they're like, I cannot terminate anymore.
No, in Terminator 3, in Rise of the Machines, because I have to preface that Terminator 3, that when he destroys the machine at the end, he goes, "You are terminated," and that's it.
This franchise is really stupid, Town. Just don't think about it.
All right, are you done?
I'm done. I any closing thoughts?
I think they should wait a while before making any other ones, and probably do a reboot.
I think they should definitely stick with Terminator 0. I hope that does well enough for them to make like a season 2 of it.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
They can do that, but I think they should do a reboot or soft reboot and maybe show more of the future war.
Yeah.
Just don't make it fucking complicated. Just
Yeah.
stop trying to one up everything, because that makes it too ridiculously complicated.
Right. Well, that's that.
Yep, that's it. Thank you for joining us for this episode of our new series that we're trying to see how it goes. A couple of idiots. You can follow us on social media. We are at the, you want to say where we're at?
Nice. Perfect. I like what we talked about this beforehand,
I know.
and we were like, I got a plan, and the plan is just to make me do it. Major Idiots Crew. That's it's going to be on multiple multiple things. Like
Instagram,
yeah.
TikTok, Facebook.
No,
probably
not Facebook. No, not
We're gonna
Facebook.
do. No, we're not doing Facebook.
We're
We're
banned.
banned
You're
from
banned, you're
Facebook.
banned.
Yeah, Zuckerberg doesn't want voices
X
heard.
maybe.
Yeah, X.
Formerly known as.
I was gonna say,
Blue
can we do
Sky.
Blue Sky instead of X?
We're on Alta Vista,
Well, we have to send an application in still.
Okay.
LinkedIn, Indeed,
Grindr.
Monster.com.
Follow us on Grinder.
Follow our Pornhub page.
Yeah, send me a super like on Tinder. I will not like you back.
Make sure to give me a love or a rose on Bumble.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that totally does a lot. Yeah.
Is that Hinge?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The roses do fucking nothing on Hinge. I'll tell you what.
Just send me a like, please.
Yeah.
Match me.
Wife, she left me.
My wife.
All right. Goodbye,
She didn't
everybody.
survive the winter.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks for stopping by. He broke the fucking Terminator.
I don't
freeze.
care. This is a metaphor for the franchise. Goodbye.
Bye.
End the video.
This video is terminated.
Oh, my